Hi guys! Ang pag-usapan naman natin ngayon ay ang share-based payments, in particular, equity-settled transactions. So, sa share-based payments, maraming pwedeng ibibigay that is based on shares. For one, you can give shares mismo. No? And the first type of transaction would be you give shares for goods and services. So, sa example nito, equipment with a fair value of 60,000 was received. 5,000 shares with par value of 10 and fair value of 15 was issued. So, share-based transaction, ang binigay mo, shares. Ang tinanggap natin, equipment. So, that's one type of share-based transaction. You pay based on shares. So, ito, bigay tayo. Now, how do you measure the equipment? No? So, anong priority natin in terms of measuring the value of goods and services received? The idea is, the first priority really is that it is based on the fair value of what is received. No? So kung dito, ang equipment, ang i-measure natin siya sa fair value niya, hindi ng fair value ng shares na binigay. So the equipment is 60,000, it is 60,000. And that would follow na yung share capital is, syempre, itong account at par, 10. So yung difference would be considered as share premium. So the priority in measuring share-based payments for shares for goods and services is the fair value of the goods and service received. Now, what if the fair value of the good received cannot be measured reliably? Only then, if hindi pwede yon, edi the value of the share-based payment given up. So, kung ganon, hindi ka ma-measure yung value of the payment. So, it based natin sa halaga ng shares na binigay. So, 5,000 shares with a fair value of 15. So, yun ang magiging equipment. And then, syempre, the capital would be at par value. And then, the difference would be share premium. So, yeah, that's the first type of share-based payment. Another one, you can also give shares not for goods and services, but for employee compensation. So, tingnan natin sa case na to. John Doe is a company employee. The market value of his services is estimated to be 40,000. He was paid 5,000 shares with a par value of 10 and fair value of 15. Now, ordinarily, we measure share-based payment based on the value of what is received. No? The idea there is that para make sure na yung shares are really funded, no? For the benefit of the shareholders. But there is this irrefutable assumption in the PFRS that states that the value of employee services is assumed that they cannot be measured reliably. No? Kasi yung bayad mo sa empleyado mo, pwede mo lang kasi iloko-loko yung halaga ng pagbayad mo sa kanya. So it's assumed that employee services cannot be measured reliably. So hindi pwede yung based on what is received. So for employee services, employee compensation, it is always based on the value of the shares given, not the value of the services received. So dito, John Doe is yung company employee, market value is estimated to be 40. PFRS irrefutable assumption, you cannot measure value of services. This is bull. So hindi ito pwedeng gamitin. He was paid 5,000 shares with fair value 10. So yung basis natin yung shares na binigay. Yan. So there. And syempre, it follows that the share capital is at par and then the difference, the share premium. If not shares, the other instrument that you can give is share options. So share options again is an instrument. You give it. If you give it to a person, it's the right to buy a share at a certain price. That is a share option. And pwede din niya natin ibigay as a share-based payment. So tingnan natin yung case na to. John Doe is a company employee. The market value of his services is estimated to be 40. So this is no bearing again because employee compensation market value is assumed to cannot be measured reliably. He was compensated with 1,000 share options with a fair value of 10. This allow him to buy shares worth 50 pesos for the price of 35. Lupit ng option. So, sige, bigyan natin siya ng options based on the value of the share-based payment given. So, ayan. The value given is 10 pesos and that's 1,000 options. So, 10,000, 10,000. So, there is your share-based payment. Now, technically this is no longer part of share-based payment, but you have to know anong point ng account na to na equity account and how is it exercised, no? Now, for instance, just so we know, what if the employee is now, okay, I will now exercise these options, I will now buy shares. So, ang entry niyan, yung 10,000, kung gagamitin na niya, edi syempre, i-debit natin para gamitin na niya. Mawawala na yun. Tapos, debit tayo ng cash. So, the 10,000 ay mawawala. And then, we will receive, he can buy it for 35 pesos only. No? 1,000 shares for 35. And, yeah. So, that's how you do it. And then, syempre, share capital, share premium. Now, depende na lang. No? Magkano ang par value dito, hindi klaro. Pero kung ito ang 45,000, kunwari ang par, and then kung may excess dito sa share premium, kunwari, basta babalanse itong dalawa. So, in this case, kung share capital ay 45 na, edi wala nang share premium. There. Now, in the case of what if the fair value of shares cannot be, of the share options rather, cannot be reliably measured. Again, pag employee, it is based on the fair value of the instruments given. Now, what if the fair value of the instruments given cannot be measured? Then, the second priority would be the intrinsic value of the instruments given. So, it's a valuation method that is not market-based. So, intrinsic value. In this case, paano natin malaman yan? The intrinsic value can be determined from this phrase. These options allow him to buy shares worth 50 peso for the price of 35. So, mabili mo yung halagang 50, 35 lang. So, parang coupon siya. Yung halaga ng coupon mo, 15 peso. So, it has an intrinsic value of 15, these 1,000 options. And if that's the case, the entry to give the benefit is this. Ayan. So, that's what happens. Now, all of these things, if you give shares to employee or if you give share options to employee, it's simpler and much easier pag diretso na siyang binigay na no strings attached, no vesting conditions. So pag bigay mo yun, madali lang. Expense, credit the equity account, tapos. Amen. But many share-based incentives to employees are attached with conditions. Like, you can only get this if you serve for 3 years. You can only get this if if the sales increase by 10%, yung mga tipong ganun. So, these are vesting conditions. And so, therefore, hindi natin i-recognize agad-agad. The employee has to earn it little by little. So, these are the types of vesting conditions in the standard. Number 1, service condition. In terms of number of years, dapat tatlong taon bago matanggap mo yan. Second, non-market performance condition and market performance condition. These are both performance conditions that they have to perform something to get it. No? Non-market is, market muna, market condition is performance condition where based on the share price. So, kunwari, matatanggap mo lang yan pag ang presyo ng shares natin lalampas ng 100. So, that's a market-based performance condition because the performance condition is based on fair value of the shares. If it's non-market, then it's a condition that's not based on the value of the shares. Like, you can only receive it if you double the number of customers. Yan, it's not non-market, not based on the value of the shares, non-market condition. There are some differences in accounting based on the condition. Let's do it one by one. For service condition, no? So, service condition, based on, the only thing you have to do really is just serve for a number of years and you will get it. Kung ganon, tingnan natin yung example. So, ito, very quick example para mabilis. May 200 employees, 100 shares ibibigay per employee. Ang halaga ng bawat share, 30 pesos. 3 service condition, dapat 3 taon para matanggap mo. And dapat, and the estimate is 90% of the employees will meet the condition or 90% will stay after 3 years. A few things to take note. Number one, the fair value of the shares or of whatever instrument you give is based on the fair value at grant date. So, whatever is the value at grant date, yun na yung basis mo for the next few years. No? Even if it fluctuates for the next, the fair value is really based on the fair value at grant date. Napaka-importante nun. So, let's look paano itsura nito. So, debit salary expense, credit the equity account, share capital, kung share options, the share options. How much is this? Now, because this is a service condition over 3 years, then, therefore, the salary expense should also be spread out over 3 years. So, i-compute natin yun. At the end of year 1, may 200 employees. Okay. 90% ang matitira at the end. So, in effect, ang makakatanggap nun ng shares is 180. Times, kada employee, bigyan natin ng 100. Tapos, bawat halaga ng bawat isa ay 30. So, ang halaga nun is 540 lahat-lahat. But, remember, this is earned over 3 years. So, kailangan i-divide natin yan by 3. Kasi, over 3 years pa niya ma-earn yun eh. So, 180 lang muna. 180, 180. By year 20x2, second year, 95% of estimated employees that meet the service condition. Ang pwedeng magbago sa assumptions mo, if ever nagbago ang number of instruments, you have to consider that. So you recalculate it based on the number of instruments given. So, dito medyo dadami kasi parang ang tao 95% rather than initial estimate mo 90% lang will stay after 3 years. Nakita mo parang loyal ng mga tao. So, 95% sigurong makakatanggap. So, in that case, 200, 95% ang makakatanggap nun. Times 100 each, no? At a fair value of 30. So, ang labas niyan na 570 na yung total. But again, it's over 3 years. So, paano yan? The adjustment is prospective. So, that means na nasa second year na tayo, dapat doon sa amount na yon 2/3 na ang recognized. Kasi second year na tayo eh. Dapat 2/3 na ang recognized by now. Tapos, i-minus lang natin sa magkano na na-recognize sa year 1. So, ang labas, parang ganun. No? Parang ganun. There. Is that right? 82, 95%, 10, 30 value times 2/3. Yan. Okay. So, there. That's 180 and 200. And last one, pagdating ng year 20x3, ang nagbago ulit ang number of employees. Again, if it changes the number of instruments, we adjust. So, estimate na 93% na. So, by the end of year 3, we recalculate the entire thing. We recalculate the entire thing at 200 times 200 employees times 93% makakatanggap. Bigyan natin ng 100 each. Ang halaga ng bawat isa ay 30. So, over 3 years ito na nasa third year na tayo. So, dapat the entire figure should already be recognized. Now, isubtract lang natin kung anong na-recognize sa year 2 at anong na-recognize sa year 1. Minus natin. And ito yung the remaining amount that needs to be recognized. So, ganun lang. No? Service condition. Rather simple. Straightforward. I-change mo lang yung number of instruments if needed. Now, non-market condition. Again, non-market condition, it's a performance condition that you have to perform this that is not based on market price. So, let's see. 200 employees, 100, bigyan natin ng 100 per employee, 30 ang fair value bawat isa. The non-market condition is to increase revenue by 10%. Yan daw ang kondisyon. Now, you have to make an estimate on the number of years to reach the condition. So, management makes, the standard requires the most likely estimate. So, according to the estimate, that yung 10% na yan, siguro average year on year or whatever, will take 3 years daw to reach the condition. So, okay, edi that's the estimate that we will follow. And then 85% of the employees will meet the service condition, meaning by the end of the 3 years, yung 85% na lang matira. So how does that factor in? So solve natin yan. For the first year, very similar. That's natin 200 employees, 85% will receive. Okay. So yan ang ilang makakatanggap. Bigyan natin ng 100 bawat isa. Ang halaga ng bawat is 30, no? Now, it will take 3 years to earn this. So, we divide it by 3. So, there, you have 170 and 170. And year 2, what change? Isa lang change. Hindi sa number of employees ngayon, nagbago ang estimated vesting period. Rather than over 3 years, naging over 4. Ang mas likely niyan, parang hindi yata natin maabot yung 10% in 3 years. Parang kailangan natin ng 4 na taon. So, parang ganun. Now, in a non-market condition, we consider this change in vesting period. In market, it's another story. But in non-market condition, hindi to naka-lock in ang vesting period. So, we consider the revision. So, again, 200 employees, bigyan natin ng 100, 85% will receive, bigyan natin ng 100 bawat isa, 30 pesos, tapos 4 na ang estimated vesting period. That means that we revise the entire thing as if it will take 4 years. So, dumana ang 2 taon out of 4. So, this is the new and the revised estimate. So, dapat 225. Pero, i-minus natin, ano nang na-recognize natin in the previous period, which is 170. So, meron pang 85,000 na kailangan i-recognize. Yeah. Year 20x3, no change in assumption. So, well, that makes it a bit simpler. The salaries expense is going to be, again, 200 employees, 85% will receive, 100, bigyan natin ng 100 per employee at fair value 30. Tatlong taon na nakalipas. So, dapat by now, nakarecognize na tayo ng 3/4. Dapat nakarecognize na ng 3/4. But, minus natin, ano nang na-recognize ng the past 2 years. Dapat 127,500. So, we consider the change in vesting period kapag non-market. Last, 20x4, may value, 90% of actual employees fulfill the service condition. So, estimate 85% lang. Pero pagdating ng end of year, uy, maraming natira, hindi umalis. So, 90%. Again, pag nag-change yung number of instruments, talagang mag-affect yan. So, there's a truing effect. It makes it truer as the years go by. We recalculate based on 90%. So, 200 times 90% matitira. 100 bigyan natin ng each at a fair value of 30. And by now, dapat out of the 4 years, kompleto na. 4 na taon na. Times 4/4 or basically yan na rin. So, dapat ang na-recognize natin 540 na by now. Minus ang na-recognize ng year 3, minus year 2, minus year 1. So, ang i-recognize na lang natin is 157,500. There. What if the non-market condition is not met in year 4? Okay, what if pagdating ng year 4 hindi pa rin na-meet and the benefit expires kasi hanggang year 4 lang yung deadline? How much is recognized as salary expense? So, itong what if na to. Itong what if, no? If the condition is not met in a non-market condition, then you stop recognizing compensation expense. So, dito sa year 4, if hindi na-meet, edi mangyayari sa year 4, no more compensation expense. Ito ay magiging 0. Ito ay magiging 0. Again, the key for non-market conditions is that number 1, if the vesting period change, adjust. And if it is not met, edi no more additional compensation expense. So, yan ay magiging 0. Now, it's not clear if, since hindi na-meet, do you retroact all? No? Lahat ba ng previous you retroact? Different firms and authors have different opinions, but for this class, let's just concentrate on the fact that we stop recognize the salaries expense. Now, what if for market conditions? The rule is a bit different. So, Let's look at this example. Again, 200 employees, 100 per employee, 30 pesos per share. There's a market condition that the fair value of the shares will double. Wow, lupit ng condition. And then, again, you have to make a most likely estimate of the number of years to meet the condition. And ang sabi dito, siguro mga 3 years, we can double na the fair value of the shares. And then 90% of employees will meet this condition. So, again, i-compute natin yan. That's 200 employees times 90% bibigyan times bigyan natin ng 100 each at a value of 30 and there. So, it is earned over 3 years. So, yan, syempre divided by 3 kasi it's earned over 3 years. So, 180,000. Year 2, no change. So, actually, magiging pareho yan kasi no change in assumption. So, 200 times 90% times 100 times 30. Ngayon, dapat 2/3 nang na-recognize minus anong na-recognize previously. So, 180 pa rin. Kasi wala namang bago. Now, interesting part, in year 3, the share price is not achieved. The estimate vesting period increased to 4. Similar to kanina, humaba ang estimated vesting period. And then, may isa pang 92% of employees, nagbago ang number of employees. In a market condition, ang assumption is parang you're quite optimist in the sense na parang sa market condition, walang atrasan. No? Parang principle of walang atrasan. Kung sa'yo mo 3 years, 3 years. So the effect there is that kahit naging 4 yung vesting period, you still recognize it over the original vesting period kasi supposedly the market price that na napeg mo already recognize that over 3 years. Something to that effect. But anyway, pag market condition, vesting period, lock. So, 200 times 100 times 30 times by now, again, 200 employees. Siyempre, number of employees, adjust talaga yan. So, 92% makakatanggap and times 100 times 30 times may pakala sila times 2/3 na dapat by now. So, there. 368 minus ano nang na-recognize from the previous, which is 180. Dapat 3/3 na kasi ka-third year na. So, dapat 552 minus what was recognized in previous year and 192 dapat. Again, the number mag-affect if magbabago yung employees, but once the vesting period increases, hindi siya pag-affect sa market condition. Pagdating ng year 4, diba, in-estimate mo, siguro year 4. Pagdating ng year 4, hindi pa rin umabot. Tapos, the benefit was never achieved. So what happens in that particular case? So, kapag ganun, wala na. No? Wala na. Pag recognized over 3 years, mag-stop ka dun sa recognized over 3 years. And if the condition is not met, it is not reversed. Again, pag market condition, if you increase the vesting period, no effect. And then if the condition is not met, no effect. Tuloy-tuloy ang recognition. There. And the last one is for modification. There's a part, what if the terms modify, ikaw binago mo ang terms sa empleyado mo, you're not a man of your word. Pagdating sa gitna, ay, ganito pala yung terms. So, that's a modification of the condition. So, let's take this case where the condition is modified. Again, 200, 133, 90%. So, in the year 1, there's nothing new. Tatanggap ng 90% times 100 times 30. And syempre, 1/3 kasi isang taon, 180. Year 20x2, entity A sees that its share price has fallen significantly on the stock market. The fair value of share options is now 15. Okay. To keep employees motivated, entity A decide to reprice the share options granted. You change something. The fair value of reprice option is 20. Estimate % of the employees that will receive the service condition remains unchanged. 5 additional fair value granted to vesting period. Ang idea dito is, the rule is, if it is beneficial to the employee, then you recognize the modification. Magbabago kasi tataas ang expense, beneficial to the employee. But if it is not beneficial to the employee, ibig sabihin the cumulative expense ay liliit, you do not recognize. Yun ang rule. Only when beneficial to the employee do we recognize. Now this one, this is beneficial in the sense na the fair value at 20x2 is now 15. Now remember, hindi yan magbabago yung original grant na 30 ang fair value kasi it is based on grant date. So hindi naman magmamatter yung 15. Magmamatter yung the fact that you changed it. And because you changed it, dumagdag ng 5. From 50 naging 20 kasi you modified the options. So that modification of 5 is beneficial to the employee because it increases the fair value. So 5 additional fair value. And then, this additional fair value, the idea is, you account for the additional separate from the original. No? So yung original yung 5, ibang account, i-compute mo yan separately yung additional na 5, tapos you vest it over the remaining period. So in this case, yung additional na 5, may 2 years na tira, you vest it over the remaining 2 years, yung additional na 5. Yung original na 30, edi, yun yung, as normal. It's normal. Okay? So, let's see how does that work. So, let's look at it. Let's separate that one. So, yung original, let's account for the original. So, in terms of the original is 200, by the end of year 2, 200 times 90% pa rin, times 100, times 30, and the original there is dapat 2 years na, no? 2 years na. So, times 2 over 3. So, 360,000. That's the original. Tapos, yung incremental, yung increase na 5, account din natin yan separately. So, dapat by now, ang incremental is 200 people, 90%, 100 options, binigyan ng increase na 5. And by now, dapat we recognize 1 over 2 kasi it is to be recognized over 2 years. So, 45. On the original, dapat 360 na. On the incremental, 45 na. So, dapat 405 ang recognition. So, 405, syempre, we already recognized 180 last year. So, 225 for this year. And similar for the next year 3, there was no further repricing. 88% remained. So, magbabago yun. On the original, there's 200 employees, 90%, 100 bigyan ng 30 pesos each. And then by now, dapat, hindi na pala siya 90%. Dapat siya ay 88%. 88%. Sorry. 88% on the original. Yeah. So, dapat by now, 5 to 8 na original. Yung incremental na 5, dapat na-vest na rin dapat yan. So, the 200 people na 88% ang natira, bigyan ng 100 shares at the 5. No? The 5, dapat fully recognized na yan. So, dapat ang recognition natin ay 616 na as of now. So, 616 minus what was recognized in year 2 minus what was recognized in year 1, and we're recognizing 211 for year 3. So that's how you account for modifications. So those are a lot of things. Again, share-based payments can be done, shares for goods and services, or for employees. Pag for employees, then not value received, but the issuance based on the value given up. So kapag ganon, nagko-complicate lang yan if there's a vesting period. And the vesting period rules, pag service period, edi over the number of years, magbabago in terms of number of employees. Pag non-market condition, tapos nag-change ang vesting period, umabang vesting period, consider. Kapag hindi na meet ang condition, consider, mawawala. Pag market condition, walang atrasan. Pag market condition, pag umaba yung vesting period, wala. Original vesting period. Tapos pag hindi na meet yung condition, tuloy pa rin ang recognition. So, those are share-based payments. And take your time to try to understand this. Hanggang dito na lang muna tayo. Maraming salamat.